All right, welcome everybody. So I'm going to call this workshop of the city council to order. Today, we're discussing funding for nonprofit organizations and the possible implementation of a community services grant program. We have worked on this a few times now over the course of a year. And I think that we made a great deal of progress at the last meeting. There were some changes that went into revising what we had in front of us as far as the policy and application. So now we're going to look at those revisions, see if there's anything else we want to change. And also what the scoring process might be. And thank you for being here, Chris Regia, to help us, because you have a scoring process for the hot grant applications, and we wanted to see if we might borrow things from that, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. All right, so thank you guys for being here. It's a workshop, so that means it's very informal. Andrea from the Family Crisis Center is here. You're welcome to speak at any time. Just let us know, raise your hand, whatever. Very informal. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our city manager and our city secretary, if you want to give us the background.
So Mayor and Council, Geo has updated the policy with the changes that were requested last time. And so the background is the city council has engaged in multiple discussions over the past year regarding this item. On January 7, 2025, the city council reviewed a draft community services grant program. And subsequently, on September 16, 2025, the city council held a discussion regarding the potential funding for segments in the fall, further highlighting the need for consistent defensible framework. And following adoption of the fiscal year 2025 budget, and in response to continued increase on profit funding requests, Mayor Eve sponsored an agenda item on October 7, 2025 to revisit this item. On January 20th, 2026, the city council convened a workshop to continue these discussions. During the workshop, the council requested city staff to make the director of tourism, Chris Rica, available, which he is available to answer any questions regarding the hotel occupancy tax grant program, as he's very familiar with that, and to provide his expert perspective on the grant program structure and administration.
Okay, so council, hopefully you've had the opportunity to go through it. There were a couple of things that I noted. If you guys would look at page 11 of 98. Under 2.0 definitions. Number 2 and number 4, I do believe need to be removed because we decided that we weren't going to do disaster relief, that's more of a state and federal response. And then number 4 was something else that we had taken out, grants for beautification. We decided to remove that. So I noted that those two need to be removed on page 11 of 98. On page 13 of 98, I made a note for us to discuss, do we want to add a general date such as the month under 3.3 application process? Because I know we wanted to have this done before the budget so that there was time to look at the budget, figure out how much money we might have in order to support some nonprofits. Do we want a general date, like a month there? What are your thoughts, council? Yeah.
Sure.
What month are we looking at? January, February, March?
The hotel occupancy tax grant process moved this last year to March.
March?
So if you want to mirror that, go at the same time.
Does that seem like it would fit our budgeting process? Okay. Okay, so maybe add the month of March in there. So
Can you repeat the ones that you wanted to strike? It was 11?
Yeah, on page 11 of 98. It's numbers 2 and 4. And then on 13 of 98, we want to add in the month of March for the application process. I don't know that we want to pin ourselves down to a specific date to say the month of March. Let's see if there was anything else I noted. Okay, on page 17 of 98. I have down that we needed to remove public safety and disaster relief. Because once again, that's the FEMA thing you struck. And then the second one, we decided not for veterans because there are other programs, and our 2 veteran council members actually initiated that conversation and agreed with that. So we might want to change veterans to elderly. I didn't see elderly on here. Instead of basic needs and services for veterans, it'd be elderly. Does that make sense? Okay. And then where it says community beautification and upkeep, we would want to scratch that. And what I did not see is council had decided that children's sports and recreation, so we want to add that below the domestic violence or somewhere in that list. It doesn't matter where, but children's recreation or children's sports.
Youth, would it be better? to go
Youth, yeah, because it might not, we might get into the weeds of what is a child.
So it should mirror the 5 program focus,
Exactly,
which are all on page 3.
yeah. All right, were there any other modifications that anybody saw as we went through this? Any other corrections that needed to be made or additions that we left out?
Yes, sir. Yep, so I got some.
Okay,
Some of it's, photographicals and others just alignment. So if you look at the table of contents.
Okay.
3.4, that would be page 9, 98,
Okay.
comes through the document.
okay,
3.4, I want to capitalize the R and the E. the
Okay.
and evaluation, and under 4.0, it says version history, that probably should not be history 7, shall be page 7, so I gotta go, that all works. That's
good
that's
catch.
my sense, that's in it. On the statement, this would be the next page, so this would be 10 of 98, or page 3 of the document. It says proposals must align with the grant priority focus areas listed above. And so I, being the sole person I am, what this is above, what does that mean? Where do I go and what are we trying to point to? That's a question. It wasn't clear. I would think it would align with the program's priority focus areas, period, not listed above.
Or listed below, right?
It's actually listed below. Yes, thank you. So if you change the above to below, I'm good. Okay.
You see where that's at? That's page 10 of 98 in program focus areas,
Yep.
city secretary.
Yeah, it's like the wrong spot. Isn't it?
Yeah,
We got those. I didn't see anywhere in here, and I don't know that this is the place, but you mentioned it earlier, Mayor, we're trying to line it up with the budget cycle. Somehow, we need, in my opinion, some criteria about how to set a budget. Or we don't. Now, right now, my guess is we probably spend in the not-for-profit area, you might be probably in the neighborhood of 60,000 a year in not-for-profits, give or take a little bit. The whole step turned around to 45,000, family crisis center and the others.
family crisis is what, 9,
Yeah, and
children's
since
society.
we are spending city general fund, those are tax dollars. In my opinion, we have to be really transparent with the community about that. To make sure we are not gonna find ourselves in a situation where we come back to some of those are tax dollars. You have to meet the legal criteria. So I don't know what the answer is, but I know we've had that discussion before, so probably want to have Cynthia at least make sure we have a way to work through the process. We have another way. And I don't know that it needs to be in here. It may be part of our budgeting document when we get ready to budget. But when you think about how we're going to set what that number is,
Right.
$17 million budget, 60,000 is not a whole lot. But I know there will be some who would say, why are you spending any money at all? Because I've heard that, why do you spend any money on not-for-profits? And, or it's gonna be the other end, well, you need to spend more.
So.
What's your sense, Henry? Where should we have that?
Yeah, there's gonna be an item, this will be at the next meeting, but, the topic will be council priorities. And that could be one area where you can, tell us, okay, this, and this, and by the way, on this item. Regarding this subject, try to set aside $100,000. And then come back to us, if you balance, great, if you don't, then we'll revisit this item again. When we get to the workshops. So
That's it. That's it.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other, now I'm getting a little bit further down in the document from an evaluation standpoint, page 18 of 98.
18 of 98.
Which, in the section of funding request. Total amount of requested, this goes back to some of the work that Chris does on the hot funding. In the hot funding criteria, we actually ask the question. How much of this requested budget is a percentage of the total budget? We eventually get around there, but I think, it may be an appropriate place to put it, and I think one of the things that we ought to ask Chris and Henry and you to go through is really look at the whole hot funding process they go through, which is in the packet. But I think getting them aligned closer would be very helpful. So there's a lot of data that we do on hot funding. It's not necessarily here yet. It could be, but now that we've got Chris's data, we just ought to ask them to go do that. It just helps a lot.
Mhm.
And
So we want that in the application, is what you're
I think
saying?
that'd be the application. Yep.
So right next, so on page 18 of 98, section 30, number 1, total amount requested, then have another blank. What is the percent of funding?
Yeah, yep.
All right, can you add that in, please?
Do you want to do it as number 4, because it says provide a detailed budget, the number 3 says have you secured other funding sources, and then 4, what percentage of funding, or where?
That'd be great.
Yeah,
Sure. That'd be super too. Yep. And then. So. Chris included, the whole hot funding stuff and stuff, but do we want to make? A similar scoring, like with the lines with the 5 major areas focus and not the one we got 9. We want to line that up in the same way and actually create a document for not-for-profits already in Florida. That's my,
I think that would be wise.
yeah, that's my thinking. So that's why I think you probably said, okay, go create that.
Okay, so we want to work on that now. I mean, when are we implementing this? This year, this March?
We
Yes,
could.
so we probably do need to work on that now since it's coming up pretty quickly. 2 more meetings and then we're there.
Yeah.
Okay, Chris, you wanna come on, you ready?
Yeah, I was gonna ask Chris.
Come on up. That way you can help us. We have to create.
Chris, could you take, I don't know how close you are on this. Could you take the 5 areas that we're talking about and take your hot funding criteria and move our 501c3 stuff into that same format? Would that be a doable do? Or is that too much of a burden?
I don't see why it wouldn't. I don't have those things
How about we
myself,
give it
but
to you? Yeah.
yeah, I certainly. I mean, what I have so far, I mean, it's a bullet list for starters, and
Yeah.
then there's a spreadsheet that does a little scoring math.
Yeah.
But so the question would be, which of those criteria, what are the weights, what's most important?
Well, so my sense is if you can help translate the, what we're talking about for the not-for-profit
Mhm.
into the hot funding scoring rubric, if I can
Yes.
use that term. That will allow us to come back and say, okay, now that we look at it, now we can say, here's how much weight we want to apply.
Okay.
Does
Well,
that make
certainly.
sense?
Yeah,
Because I mean, that's what you do so masterfully. You put weights to it, you go through them, and that would allow us to look and say, okay, now we start talking about, hey, it's 10% or 30% or 50% or 20% or whatever. That would be helpful.
yeah, more than happy to do that, yeah.
Because I think that'll move the process along a lot quicker.
Right.
And give us something we can shoot a dart at.
Yeah, we need this in March. That's right.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay,
And I think. Those were my comments.
okay, Councilmember Rikus,
I don't have any.
okay. Councilmember Martinez,
I don't know. We're ready. I went over.
Councilmember Portillo?
Me either.
All right, so I dog-eared page 28 of 98. Do we want something like a schedule that we publish each year?
Each year, what we do is just kind of go and, kind of mimic the year prior to the last year. And today I was actually looking at it, I am tentatively scheduling everything the same day as last year. I
I'm
think
glad you
just
were,
like-
it catches me by surprise every year, even though it happens every year.
I was thinking annually in March is sufficient.
All right, so on this one, you have a hard date. Instead of just saying March, do we want a hard date on this particular document, council?
We actually every year go and modify it based on when the city manager meets with Megan, they set those dates. Every year, so they'll go and Chris will redo the application this year and solidify those dates and post it on the website.
Yeah, I do rework the guidelines every year, at least to review, but usually we'll find something that we felt like was confusing or is not necessary anymore. Like I found one of the criteria that I sent to you all that's listed, it's already actually part of the process. It doesn't, it was the saying that the committee would score based on whether they got a report. That's not actually quite accurate because the report is a required attachment elsewhere. You know, things like, there's always some kind of cleanup. And so I did that, and at the same time, we get the specific case of what.
Can I suggest?
Yes, please.
And since we're talking about putting an ordinance together, this is where this is going, correct?
Oh,
Resolution. So resolution. That we put the schedule be defined in the, or details schedule be defined in the annual city budgeting process document. That way, it takes it out of us having to update it and you include it in what's going on in your annual budget. Does that work? Because you're not a council, and so you can do whatever you want.
Right.
We gotta follow a bunch of rules.
Yeah,
What do you think, Henry?
I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
I think it's really the hot process has always been administrative completely, and this, we're getting council consideration because it's budgeting process and whatnot, however, it's really administrative, I think, more of the scheduling aspect, so I think that's good.
Okay. All right, and then that was all that I had for this. Is there anything else we need? We good? Ta-da!
So now, we're all the galvanized, any other not-profit organizations can apply, and we just go, yes, 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 no.
Right, using the scoring rubric.
Yeah, we'll have to set a budget. And perhaps squeeze it, yeah, so remind us, Chris, so hot funding, what was the, how much did we have budget last year, what were the asks?
well, we had 400,000 budgeted, and I think it was 628 or something like that.
that was last.
It was requested.
And that was lower. The year before, it was over 1 million.
Yeah.
Request.
Oh, yeah, so we'll work it out first. Whatever it will sell.
And those who already have applications, can they modify, go higher or lower, who will determine it is that?
Our decision. Yeah, our decision to work. We're not setting the budget, and we're not gonna work it.
All right, do we have workshops already scheduled in March for this process?
No, so if you look at the, basically the hotel occupancy tax rent schedule, I'm sure that Chris has been meet with our city manager about that as well. Like I said, I was tentatively putting stuff together. We have the hot committee schedule meetings already as well. But I think we could just mirror the same thing. The application would be around March 9th and end around April 16th or somewhere. It's a little over a month. We
Okay,
just follow that same process. There's no committee scoring these, but the hot committee is meeting 2 weeks in a row, May 15th and May 22nd, to score those items. I think we could just easily get those to council. Keep in mind that, the city manager is scheduling budget workshops and all those things as well. So, yes.
so my take is that we would put it as a workshop like this, and so where would you see that fitting based on your schedules?
Well, I think he's already scheduled quite a bit for March and April. As far as budget workshops are concerned, so do you think I think we have availability in May.
for us to score them. Okay, so the council meetings in May are the 5th and the 19th. Yeah. So, my guess is we might need 2 workshops. We want to at least allow ourselves 2 workshops.
The way that we usually handle it is we do the scoring in one workshop and then we work the budget in the second one. So that they can refer to the scores, but by the time we've reviewed all the applications and given them scores, everybody's exhausted. So we do the actual dollars the next meeting.
So you score
Score in one meeting,
in
and
dollars.
then we actually work the budget and decide the awards that we're gonna recommend to you guys the next meeting.
So 2 workshops for council should be sufficient.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that your load will be heavier probably than ours. I'm guessing that might not be.
I know how many nonprofits are gonna want grants.
Yeah, yeah, that fit the criteria. You
Yeah.
have to fit that criteria. So would you add, city council workshop at 4 PM on May 5th and May 19th for us to take care of this?
Yes.
All right, so if y'all would add that to your calendars, 4 PM, on the 5th, scoring nonprofits. Applications. And then on the 19th, awarding. Nonprofit dollars. And then this would be for the budget year of October 1st, 2026. Anything we should know, Chris, that you think that we should be aware of?
Well. I'll say the libraries are great.
That's a discussion we need to have, in fact, so last night was leadership huddle, the first Monday of every month, city manager, myself, county judge. President Ross and superintendent of AISD get together, along with Alpine Community Projects, because they are a very active nonprofit in the community. And we were talking about this workshop, and Kirsten Moody made a valid point that she wanted us to mention, is that she thinks the library funding needs to be separate from this, because most municipalities support their libraries, so they should not be in this pool.
That's a great comment.
I would, had I a vote, yeah, I've always felt that libraries are a responsibility of our local governments. I'm grateful that it's been split, the burden, you know, has been placed on between the
That's been
county
a
and.
blessing for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would love to see, the library get robust.
Yeah, so they
Yeah.
would be separate. Do we need to document that somewhere in this application or in the policy? To say that for future councils, future administrations that may come after us, that the libraries is not part of this, they are separate funding.
So we have a place in our document where we talk about things that are excluded.
Okay,
We could say, there's something call it that the library is funded separately as a separate line item and not included as part of this policy.
all right, what page is that? So we can direct our city secretary with that.
That was. Because we have the exclusion.
I remember it, yeah, I remember that. I just don't know where it's at.
It is. Okay, it's on page 11 of 98, this policy does not apply to. Organization program contract the city provides specific services. Number 2, for-profit entities introduced 3 organizations doing hotel tax funds. Could be number 4, the Alpine Public Library, which is funded separately by the city.
Okay,
Is it possible or does it make sense to, in some way by resolution or otherwise, that to officially kind of define library services as something that the city of Alpine considers one of its, I don't know, core
Core
functions or something like, yeah, that, because that would, it might, I don't know, future councils as budgets get stressed and the,
Let's put that language in this policy.
yeah.
and do we need, I think what Chris is asking, do
It'd
we
probably be
need,
better through an ordinance.
Fair enough.
That's that way, that's the order. Unless somebody repeals that order, It stays.
Okay.
So can we put it both places, number 4, just to clarify for people who are applying for it, that the library is not part of it? And for the library, and then also have the ordinance,
This is what's got ordinance.
okay?
Yeah.
What kind of language did y'all want in before?
You just said it, Chris.
Oh, did I? Well, that the city of Alva considers library services, and you said like a core, I mean, municipal function
The
or core.
Alpine Public Library. A core. Service provided to the city. Cause that's number 4 as the exclusion. Okay. And that's because it's got, that'll be the 4th item that's excluded, and then we do a second ordinance to cover that to Henry's point.
We may be able to find language somewhere as to how
I
all
thought
the other governments all around the country are
Well,
defining what
we
library
can put
services
that in
are.
the ordinance.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, that's what that was.
Yeah.
Okay. And so what do we need to do to begin working on the ordinance?
We'll create the language and have legal review
Okay.
and bring it back to council. You know,
I guess the only other thing I'd say about the grants process is that I personally have been very grateful that the council defined a committee. Because then I can work with all the grantees and all the applicants and not be the guy that said no to anyone.
Right.
And so I don't envy that role when anybody takes it.
Right.
And you guys you're in many hot seats, and so it's another. Not that I've heard any like, if they're sour grapes, they're not loud. There hasn't been issues, but
Right.
it's nice when there's a buffer, which you guys don't have the luxury of.
But that's what we signed up for.
Exactly,
Mhm. The good, the bad, the ugly.
yeah.
Find the beauty.
And the beauty, that's for the good. The good, the beauty, the bad, the ugly. Anything else, council, before we adjourn the workshop? Andrea?
No, nothing today.
I guess with the scoring rubric, Chris, did you have any recommendations on that, or did you all want to just have us come up with one? I was thinking I was gonna ask the city manager if, we should probably get this presented at the next meeting for official consideration, that way we could have it. Well ahead of them March, because the next meeting's in next week of March.
Well, as I understood it, there already were a set of criteria you were considering that I would plug into. Kind of the scoring sheet, a copy of the scoring sheet I've already got and send it back for you guys to edit. Does that
Right.
sound right?
Okay.
Yeah, it was page 10 of 98, basic needs for service elderly, basic needs for services for people with lower incomes, educational resource and assistance, domestic violence and assault relief, children's sports, or it's gonna be youth sports and recreation. Those are the
Now-
5.
The way the criteria that the committee are scoring by are things that are gonna be true across all the applications, because there's a question with those kind of things are, their capacity to provide the service, their track record of having done so, if that exists, would give them, extra points. And so that's, has any discussion like that in terms of what you're looking for, not just in looking for it in terms of which services are they offering, but when somebody gives you an application, some assistance to you all in evaluating each application, rather than what's a segment of what kind of service, how are they, how good are they?
Like, how many people would you give these services to?
That- yeah,
What,
that could be-
part of the population would most benefit this program?
And so,
Yeah,
yeah,
we haven't had that discussion. I guess we need to have that now.
It's the rubric, I just don't see it translating in the same way, because it's weighted.
now that I understand that, I agree, because
Right.
those are allowable functions,
Right.
fundable functions that a nonprofit could provide. But it seems like what you're really looking for is assistance when you're sitting. Look, an application comes in front of you, it's gonna help you get to that who's strongest and who's weakest.
Okay, so to Andrea's point, I think those are two good criteria. The number of, can you repeat what you said?
The number of people that will use your services, or how many people that you service in the community.
Yeah, number of people served.
And then your second one was,
The type of population that you'd most serve, whether it be maybe elderly, children,
low
it could be
income,
low income and age.
women.
One of the things that we have two kind of extra credit categories, which is like new and innovative programs that aren't like a core part of their score, but would get them extra. And so what comes to mind is maybe there's an underserved population or something that if somebody's reaching somebody who's particularly vulnerable, that might get them a extra
Right,
value, because you're trying to evaluate, one, the value that they're bringing to the community, because that's what the money's for, and then
Right.
two, are they going to actually be able to provide it? Because it's one thing to write an application, so one of the criteria we have is how confident are we from looking at this application that it's gonna happen?
okay,
And part of that is, how does the application look? But part of that is also, we tend to know people and each other in a small town like this, so that their track record is gonna be part of it. And if they don't have a track record, then it's really gonna be, does this document convince you that they're up for the job?
okay, so how would we? title
Well,
that
we
category?
call that the capacity to put on the
Provide.
event. So like you're evaluating their capacity to provide the service. Would
So-
be,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's a good one, absolutely,
Capacity.
to provide the service. So we have two categories now, three?
number of people served, the type of population or the segments of the population, I don't know how to put that exactly, and capacity.
What else?
Longevity, maybe,
What was it?
longevity. Like, what's your
Well,
two-year
or
goal?
track record, yeah.
Or your track record.
Okay. Councilman
How
Brazil.
long
And I only say two because some nonprofits might be barely starting. They could still have a 2-year goal, but in applications like this, people are usually asking like, what's your 3-year goal?
Right,
And that goes in with innovation, like how are you gonna grow this thing that you already have or you're starting?
Yeah, well, and within this granting process, with your vision, like the hot funds are always in tension because part of the goal is to encourage new things to happen and kind of
Right.
incubate. And so a lot of folks have believed like this should be an incubator fund and we should wean those events off. But given that we're such a small town with such limited resources and potential sponsors, it's really got both. It's this bedrock support for performing events, but it's also, and so in this case, we have long-serving nonprofits that are absolutely worthy of support and continuing to provide, but are you also looking for innovative new ideas to fund? Is that one of the things that you want in there? Or is it really you're looking to try and support the things that have been working and keep them working? Well, both.
that's a good question. We definitely want to support the things that have been working. And keep them working.
Also to look at things that are new, you know? That's where I think we kind of lack as a community is we've been stuck so long at what's already been here that we haven't allowed new things to come in and at least give it a try and see what happens, you know, because things are changing, things are different elsewhere, you know, and so why not? But I
And
think we should-
society and things are constantly evolving. and
That
changing.
could be like we do with the hot funds where you got an extra credit call, or is this an innovative new idea that would get extra points?
What's your
but-
thought, council?
Makes sense. Give it a shot.
Okay.
One
Yeah,
other
extra
thought,
credit for that.
that thing that has come to mind is just financials, cause one of the criteria is like a sound business plan and marketing plan. That we're seeing in the document, and so capacity to provide service. But if you're giving them money, then there's also might be. You know, are we seeing a strong financial position, or are we seeing the ability to you know, to handle their funds in a professional way, or professionalism might be a criterion.
You like that? In your applications, don't you ask what other resources you want to use for this event?
Yes.
One of the criteria is. If somebody comes looking for 100% grant support, that is absolutely low scoring. They get more points based on how broad their support is, that they're not just looking to the city tax fund to do everything.
Which that's
definitely a big
Diversity,
category.
okay.
That's also part of the application question, where it
Right.
says what percent of this is part of your entire budget.
Right. Yeah, so that would be a big.
So I got a question, and it's just a question, so. Say Saul Ross, for example. That I just got hit up by, they're fixing to start a bunch of students fixing to start a Saul Ross State University golf club. Right? We don't have a golf program here, but these guys are starting, they sent me their whole little spill on it. They already talked to me about it, but I go, come up with a plan. You know, I mean, you want me as a business to sponsor, give you money, come up with a plan. Do we, as a city, would we help in something like that, even though it is Saul Ross State University, right? A club, but they are using Alpine Country Club and trying to, you know, because their thing is to eventually host tournaments here, you know, for other universities that don't have golf programs that have golf clubs. You know, is that something, I mean, it's just a question, you know, is that something that as a city, do we look, can we help with that, or is that just strictly Saul Ross and y'all go off and y'all go find those own sponsorships or help, you know, people that are gonna donate? It's just a question that I have. I mean, would they be able to come and,
I think Chris will probably answer it better, but for example, this club is coming to the city to ask for hot funds because they're hosting the tournament, and the majority of the teams that are coming in, which are, let's say there's 26 teams coming in, the majority are from out of town.
And so that means it's legal,
okay,
because for under the hot funds, that's the only way a sporting event can be funded legally.
Okay.
Is if at least half the participants are from out of town.
or just so I could
Yeah,
maybe provide them some information and maybe come and talk to you about it.
I'd be happy to
And,
sit down with
you know,
Yeah.
I mean, like I told them, I go, I'll meet with y'all on Friday when I'm kind of, you know, towards the end of the week. And I'm gonna help out, just cause, you know, they're college kids
Right.
and they're trying to do something, you know, and I see these guys at the golf course all the time. And they had been talking about it, but you know, we were talking one day, I said, come up with a plan. I go, I mean, I'm good with it, but you need a plan of some sort. I go, if you're gonna go and talk to businesses, they've already talked to Great Ball, they've talked to Alpine Country Club. You know, and a few other little places that I was telling them like, hey, you know, go hit these guys up, you know, they're maybe willing to help donate y'all's. Cause I think they have one of their first golf tournaments in March up in Cedar Park or something, or as a club that they're going to, you know. and-
PBT.
Mhm.
You mentioned
Yeah,
PBT.
BT, yeah, well, and I'm gonna have a talk with them on Friday and let them know about some other businesses, but I mean. There's still students here in Alpine, Texas, you know, we are still. Saul Ross is still Alpine, you know, and it was just something that I wanted to, as we were talking about this, maybe bring up and, you know, and I'll have. These young men come and speak, you know, go and speak to you.
Well, if
about-
they're hosting something here, if like it's.
That's what they're looking at,
The
now
other
it's
teams
just,
would might be coming, then that's very fun,
okay,
yeah. And I'm, like I said, I'm always happy to try and help somebody find the part of the thing they're trying to do that might be funsful.
yes, sir, okay,
Yeah, they talked to me about that too, but this is the first tournament they're going out. So they're asking businesses to sponsor them so they can be able to go.
Mhm.
So that's the difference, they're going out is what they need money. They come and then maybe they can apply for that.
Now, one other thing that like the music advisory board has talked about is sponsoring touring musicians. We don't have a lot of bands that are on the road, but if somebody went on the road, we could use advertising money. If they, you know, we'd have to vet them, say, is this a good ambassador for the city of Alpine, but they could take Alpine materials on a music tour, and some of that tour could be paid for by advertising funds. So that sort of thing, if we get creative, it's possible. We just, I mean, the hard part is one, that long lead time. They're gonna have to think way ahead because they're asking in the spring for money next fall or next spring. So that's the hardest part, but then coming up with a way where that feels like a strategic good bet to the committee and a better one than the other folks that are asking for that money, but that's possible. If most of their stuff is leaving town, maybe there's a way that they can be inviting people to go back to Alpine when they're out of town, and that's fundable. You know, so we can always try coming up with something exciting, and sometimes the new ideas come up.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, there's a question if this golf new is part of the sport like baseball or basketball, they know this is a club and it's new. So they're barely setting club. So.
Well, and so that maybe they get a year, half a year under their belts, and then they're ready to apply for it.
So what's the best way to get a hold of you?
My email, Chris at Visit Alpine TX.
And then y'all can schedule a meeting or visit Alpine.
TX, yeah.
Okay, so what do we have on our scoring rubric?
Right now, I've got in 5 core things being the number of people served, the capacity to provide the service, professionalism and financial competence, longevity, track record of previous service, and diversity of funding as 5, and then an extra credit for innovative programs and serving particularly vulnerable populations, like very young, very old, very poor, or however you might put that. That's what I was hearing as I shaped that.
Okay.
That all fits into the columns I've got. That doesn't mean you can't add more or take away some in terms of the number of core scoring things. And then once we have that, then you would decide, adding up to 100, what percentage of the grade should each of those things represent, the main 5? And if you do a straight, everyone's 20%, but you might decide that, well, diversity of funding, it's important, but it's not as important as being able to do a good job. So then you bring it down to, 10%, 30, or whatever it might be.
Is there anything else, council, that we need on the scoring rubric?
Yeah, I think so.
Something,
Andrew?
if there's maybe like another portion where it's kind of like fill in the blank of your core mission. And that way they can fill out, like, I'm thinking for the youth programs, exercise, well-being, blah, 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 all that can go at the top, because they may not be able to score on each column, but at least still have the concept of what's their core mission.
On the scoring rubric.
Mhm.
Or would it be in the application? So
Or in the application, yeah.
Okay.
fill it in.
It makes more sense for the application. I mean, you should absolutely see it, and because one of the things you're gonna consider is what they're asking for funding, how close is it to their mission? Somebody's like, has their mission one thing and they're asking for money to do something completely different, that might be a yellow flag. It might be red, but I wonder.
Core mission,
Uh-huh.
I could add it, and supporting documentation, in between 4 and 5. Just a core mission statement.
Yes.
Mission.
And does that need to be on our grading rubric, Bruce, or?
Well, one thing you could,
You said
good
yellow
grade it
flag.
on is how closely their mission matches your funding goals.
Okay.
Which means you'll have to flip back and forth between
Yeah,
your.
well, because you will anyway, because the way that scoring is like a spreadsheet and you've got the application in front of you, you're just putting in 1 through 10, in each of those.
Yes, that's a good one.
Yeah. That is good.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So, told you I was glad you were here.
Yeah.
Okay, you should be here.
Well, my husband tells me all the time.
Uh-huh.
He's great.
Maybe one day?
Maybe one day,
Yeah.
Well, where do you live?
4 or 5.
When Rick retires.
Yes, he does an excellent job, so.
Is that a laugh because you're never gonna retire?
A lot of overtime. Looking for good people.
Yeah, maybe you can mentor Andrea. Uh-huh. All right, anything else, council? Chris, does it look like we're good?
That's good, that gives us 6, so I'll lay out a spreadsheet with 6 with even weightings and I'll send it back to Geo to distribute.
Sounds great. Anything else, Henry?
No.
Gio?
Good discussion.
Okay,
God,
so 15 minutes early. Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and Chris, thank you. Yeah, the workshop is adjourned. This is 5:30.
The best.